I'm kind of off site here, and it's 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. The cemetery's officially closed, and I'm still here. It's 92 degrees here in Elk Grove today. It's the 2nd of August, 2019, and nostalgically, just kind of thinking, my mindset is in a place of where I was 20 years ago. Because in 1999 I graduated high school, and then from there, I went on to college, and life changed so much in the year 1999. And it wasn't just because of, the end of, a century, but just so many things happened that year in my life. I had back surgery because I had scoliosis, and, it was crazy year. My grandma passed away that year. Such a monumental mark in my life, and part of that was meeting Matt, whose grave we were just at. And it's kind of noisy over there. There's some people over there with a crane trying to remove a tombstone of some kind. And but yeah, I met Matt on an AOL chat room, the Sacramento AOL chat room, and I think I just randomly had asked people if they were into ska music, and he replied saying that his favorite band was Five Iron Frenzy, and I said my favorite band is Less Than Jake, and he told me he played trumpet. I told him I played drums. I think he also told me he played a little bit of drums and guitar. We'd eventually meet up, and eventually would start a band called Damascus Road. He would do vocals, I would be drums, my brother would be on guitar, and a friend of me and my brother, a mutual friend, Andrew, bass, ended up playing bass guitar. And we did some shows here and there and stuff. And I remember we got to play with some really cool Betty Rocket bands like David, Watashi Wa. We got to play with Shopland Phoenix before they got signed to Betty Rocket. And we got to play with Prosper. And that's probably about it. And just a bunch of local bands like Shell Number 7 and whatnot, which featured Colby Wedgeworth on drums, who later on became the music producer that he is today. And we would, with Damascus Road, we would do that for about, I think, a couple years, and then change the name to Not Far Off. And we were trying to attempt to possibly try to be a ska band. It didn't really work out, unfortunately, because I think I got fed up with it and basically told Matt I didn't want to be in a band with him. And it was rough because I guess I remember making a promise to him that I said no matter what happens musically, me and him would be together. We would always make music together, and I broke that promise. I feel really bad about it. I still think about it from time to time. Like, I broke this promise. Let's be honest, you can only promise people so much. And we were kind of two different people in a sense. He was a devout Christian, and was just raised differently than me. And I guess I was kind of testing out Christianity to see if it was really for me or not. Eventually I became a Christian, and I still am. But, yeah, so it was a difficult thing to do. And, but anyways, I would go on to play in a band called Sparkstarter. Well, several different bands, but, Sparkstarter, and he eventually started playing drums for a band that I had tried out for, which later on became known as the Divine Romance, which released an album out on Harvest Records, which is the label that put out the very first EP from Unearth, and a split album that came out with Winter Solstice, who eventually put out full length and was on Metal Blade, and Nodes of Ravier, who were also, or who eventually were on Facedown Records, and then eventually Victory Records. Anywho, I know all this music information, and some of you are out there watching this and you're like, I have no clue what the hell he's talking about. Just bear with me, alright? But yeah, you know, but it was so cool to, I remember I got to play 2 shows, Sparkstar got to play 2 shows with the Divine Romance. And it was really cool to see Matt happy playing drums in a different element, you know, and I wanted to do more stuff between our band and with Sparkstarter and the Divine Romance, and I wanted us to be like that really tight niche band that really kind of does everything together, and it really didn't work out that way. But eventually he would quit the band and they would find a new drummer, and he got basically an offer of a lifetime. He got offered to go on tour with Bible Man, which I guess is like the Christian version of some like superhero thing. I don't know. I don't really quite understand it, but then again, I don't know, I'm not in a youth group. but yeah, there was like the Bible Man, and then there was like the Villain, and I don't know what the Villain's name was, but he got to play the Villain, and he got to tour the whole entire U.S. as the Villain, and they would go to churches and they would do this skit or whatever, and he had some time off, and he was with his friend Greg, who we nicknamed Cat Burglar, but he really wasn't a cat burglar. It just happened to be that first impressions when we met him, it was at a Halloween concert thing that we played, and he played he was dressed up as a cat burglar, so my brother nicknamed him Cat Burglar, but his name was Greg, and he might still go to the same church as Matt used to, and it is hot out here. Sorry, it's like 92 out here in Elk Grove today, but yeah, Greg. So Matt met up with Greg, and Greg noticed like a bump on Matt's arm. There was a bump on his arm, and he said, "What's that?" And Matt said, "I don't know. I just noticed it recently." He said, "Well, I think you should go to the doctor and get it checked out." And to the doctor, get checked out and found out it was cancerous. That he had cancer. So he went through chemo and all that stuff, and he eventually found out that the cancer was in remission. And apparently, maybe about 6 months to 9 months later, he started getting sick, and he went to the doctor again, and this time the doctor said that the cancer came back. It's more vicious than it was before, and I'm sorry, but you don't have very much time to live. And I think shortly after that appointment, from my understanding, was he died shortly thereafter, very much shortly thereafter that appointment. Of course, I wouldn't find out about it. I didn't get to go to his funeral service. I was kind of like not really talking to him, but sort of was, you know, here and there, just kind of checking up on him. And I was at church. Our church used to have concerts. It was called Club Retro. It was in Orangevale, and it was a concert with the band The Chariot. And his friend Greg was there, and he came up to me, and I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Good." And he just said something about, you know, it's really sad what happened to Matt. And I said, "Well, what do you mean what happened to Matt?" And he said, "Oh, you don't know?" And I said, "No." And he told me that he had passed away due to his cancer. Came back with vengeance. I took it really hard. And there was a guy there that night who played guitar with Matt in the Divine Romance for a short period of time, and when I told him, he was so devastated that he left the concert. I absolutely ruined the concert for him, but so yeah, that's that. And I miss Matt, and I wish he was here today. And I know that if he was here today, I know he'd still be playing music. He'd probably still be active at his church. Probably would be a pastor. I'm sure he would probably be married and have a family, have kids and whatnot. It's one of those age-old questions. Someone who's so devout to doing everything for the Lord, and then yet his life is cut short because of an illness of some kind. And it's like, some people say, oh, well, heaven needed another, heaven needed him as an angel or some weird stuff. I don't know. The moral of the story is things happen that I can't explain. I'll never know until the day I die if that answer's ever questioned. I know that really messed some people up. There were people that recognized that he was a very devout Christian and that he was a loving person. He loved music, and yet when they find out that he had cancer and came back twice and eventually took his life, they're like, how could a God who loves people allow that to happen? And I have to basically step in and say, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I still know that no matter what, that Jesus loves me, Jesus loves you, and he loves Matt, and it's just an unfortunate thing. I don't really have anything else to say. I should probably get going since the cemetery is officially closed, and I don't want to get locked in here. I'll have to be banging on the office door, yelling to the mortician, "Hey, buddy, I'm stuck in here,